All right, guys, welcome back to episode 3 of the Pale Horse Podcast. This is going to be a special Christmas episode that we're going to talk about, and so stay tuned. All right, so I'm here with one of my guys, Jacob. I'm going to let Jacob introduce himself for everyone. He's the youngest guy with us and helps play bad guy in Op 4, and he's on the Bush's Op 4 team, and so he's filling in for Bush tonight. But I'll let him talk a little bit about himself.
Yeah, I'm Jacob. As he said, I work with him some. I'm always the bad guy.
He's not good. He's never good.
No, I'm not good. I mean,
he's what we call a force-on-force bullet sponge. At least that's what his job title is. So he gets unique perspective on, the force-on-force classes were something I want to talk about today. I was just kind of prepping for 2023. Episode 2, Justin Stevens and I talked a lot about 2023 prep and our mindset going into that. So I pulled Jacob in to talk about the force-on-force classes just because we've been hitting those really hard right now, and they have been eye-opening for students, and it's always something good to talk about for 2023. Believe it or not, some of the force-on-force classes are the hardest classes to sell, and that always bothers me, I think, because the big reason that people do not take them is the challenge, or they don't want to get shot with a force-on-force round, which really doesn't hurt that bad. And so it's really good. We've had a bunch of seasoned shooters come through the last 2 weeks. We ran a vehicle defense class, and then a squad tactics class, back-to-back these weekends. And something that we have noticed is very talented shooters and instructors just getting absolutely wrecked in the force-on-force sections. I mean, just some of the best shooters that I know and come through classes now all of a sudden are, getting picked last on the team in squad tactics. Mm-hmm. And so Jake and I are going to talk a little bit about that and answer some of the questions that you guys had for us that you guys posted in the comments, which is always good. We're also going to talk about Christmas ideas, some current events, and some topics there. And then set that up for our spiritual topic, the reason for the season. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, so Jake and I are going to dive into the force-on-force section. Something that I want to discuss with you guys is, are you training in force-on-force? And then I'm going to put another challenge or question out there. Is it done the right way? There's a lot of instructors out there that offer force-on-force courses, but it's almost an experience. It's like signing up to go play laser tag with your boys. There is a difference in reality-based force-on-force training that is skill and tactics-based versus a force-on-force class that is grounded in an experience or based on an experience where they might turn you loose, give you a 20-minute safety spiel and 40 minutes of instruction, and they turn you loose for 2 hours to play. Our force-on-force classes, I think every one of them is almost 3 hours of demo. I can't think of one off the top of my head that isn't. 3 hours of demo work and instruction work before you ever get handed a force-on-force pistol. Whether it's CQB1, vehicle defense, squad tactics, it's lunchtime at least before any of these force-on-force weapons are being passed around, just because there's so much content to cover as far as doing things the right way, and so much adds up before you actually dive into force-on-force. So I'm going to pick on Jacob for a minute and ask him what are put him on the spot, 3 biggest mistakes he sees students make as the bad guy that lets him win those encounters.
I'd say the number one mistake that I've seen is that the students don't ever, well, I won't say don't ever, but they tend to not take it seriously. They tend to, like you said, just want to play around or whatever. And it ends up them just standing around or whatever as, I'm going through, being tactical about it, going through and, getting behind them, sitting in, deep angles, whatever, and they're just fooling around.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to follow up with a question. Do you think that is because, at least in my experience, what I think it is, I'll ask your opinion, it is easier if you lose to say, well, I was just goofing around. It's a fallback. It's a safety net that preserves the ego.
Some of the time, yeah, I think it is. And I think also some of it is, like you said, how we're, prepping for so long, they just want to goof off and, get through it instead of actually committing, their time to learning a new skill.
Ready to go ahead and just start jumping in. Ready to go and play Call of Duty Team Deathmatch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Do you see another failure or point of, I guess, a training gap that you see in the students?
Well, I've seen a lot of them just get tired and not push through to where, like, when I'm going through, I'll maybe, I'll fire at them and then, it's like little plastic rounds. It doesn't hurt much at all. And like, it'll hit them like on the finger and then they'll just be like, well, I'm done. And then they'll just walk off. And I mean, realistically, you're going to keep going, right? Like, maybe, but it's stuff like that. Or
yeah.
Or they'll just be in the middle of fighting and then nothing happened to them. And then they just walk off.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see so many students leave force on force early because they're tired or, the round hurt or they're frustrated with themselves.
Right.
Yeah, Jake's referring to Attack Med 2 class that we taught not long ago. So the whole point of the class is a tactical and medical dilemma all day long, whether it's in a squad tag scenario, a one-on-one, on the range. We're training how to patch yourself up and stay in the fight, or patch your buddy up and stay in the fight. So handling that tactical medical dilemma.
Right.
Yeah, and we had students that, took a force-on-force round to the finger, and they're like, yeah, like, I guess I'm out. And I'm going, no. Like, the whole point of the class is how to patch it up. Patch it up and keep going. And, I mean, they're just shut. Well, I'm just tired anyway.
Right.
And it's like, man, I would hate to have that mentality. And if you'll do it in training, if you'll mentally give up in training, I think you'll mentally give up in the fight. Yeah. Right. Any other training gaps that you think people should work on force on force?
I think that people are not very aware when they're going into it. I'm not really sure if that has to do with like fooling around or whatever, but they're just not aware of where they are. Like their whole situational awareness. Like I'll be like a good, maybe even like 10 feet in front of them, and they're just not paying attention or thinking it's someone else or something else like that. And then I'm right up on top of them, and then they're, oh, well, there he is. How did he get there? Or something like that. It's really, really sad.
It's threat focus. It's and that's what I compare that to. It's so much harder to not threat focus than we think. It's so much harder to keep our vision where it needs to be and not get tunnel vision and not go into heuristics and animal type behavior. We ran into that this past weekend. Bush was working with me this past weekend teaching squad tactics, and he was laying just for an ambush. We were teaching them patrol formations and reactive contact, and so it was 8 students versus Bush. So 1v8 should be a pretty easy fight. And there was a couple of times where he was just laying beside the trail out in the open. I'm walking with the students. Right. I'm looking over at him and like waving. And I've got 8 guys walk right past him. And he's 15 feet, 20 feet away, just laying beside the trail. And of course, he makes contact. 2 or 3 of them go down. They finally, get him eliminated. And they walk over and they go, "You were not laying there the whole time." He goes, "Yeah, I was laying there the whole time." But we're scanning, we're using, our foveal vision, or they're using peripheral vision. They're walking straight down that patrol route, gaze fixed up ahead. They're scanning for threats upcoming. He's using some proper technique and having some between, like leaning on the backside of a tree or, some type of hasty ambush situation. And they're trying to spot him using peripheral vision. So our foveal vision, right, is our long elongated, that takes care of detail and color and contrast. And then our peripheral vision is movement and angles and grayscale. And so they're sitting there walking, facing forward, looking where they're going, or they're just doing quick little glances. And they're relying at that point on peripheral vision to spot him.
Right.
The problem is, and he wasn't even wearing camo. He was in like a gray hoodie or something, playing bad guy. It took them actually turning, locking on with foveal vision, picking up the color contrast and going, "No, that does not belong," for them to actually make that contact early before they were fired upon.
That reminds me of I wasn't playing bad guy that time, but it reminds me of that same TechMed class you mentioned earlier, where I was playing somebody that was wounded and I was out, on the trail, or I was off the trail, and they were trying to locate me, patch me up, take me back to Exville, and every single person passed me, and I wasn't that far off the trail.
I was in like jeans.
I was in jeans and
right?
like a bright t-shirt. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sitting there like heavily breathe. I'm doing, everything.
Moaning a little bit.
And moaning a little bit. Right.
'Cause I heard you.
Exactly. And every single person passed me, and you had to go, "Hey guys, you passed him." And they're all, "What? No, we didn't." And then they all turn around and they're already starting to pass me again, and then one of them sees me.
And you're 20 feet off the trail.
Right.
Yeah, laid up against a tree.
Exactly. Up against a tree in the open, not under anything or behind anything.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It just comes down to, you guys have to keep your, I guess, it's eyes open, and it's easier said than done. And that was going to be my I wanted Jake's opinion. And then my biggest thing is there's no or not enough mental processing in force-on-force classes that we see, vehicle defense or squad tactics. Just recently, that was my number one critique for the whole class, and that is goes exactly along with what we're talking about. There's no mental processing. The lights are on, but no one is home. Mm-hmm. We are just so bombarded with the unknowns that we mentally shut down. I compare it to a Honda Civic, just 1990 Honda Civic, pegged out at 8,000 RPMs, just ring. The tires are spinning, the engine's gonna blow, and you're not going anywhere. Right. And so that's what we compare it to. Just there was no mental processing throughout pretty much most of those classes, but it was students who had done little to no force-on-force training. Now you're talking about instructors. Firearms instructors, law enforcement instructors, some of the best shooters we see come through live fire classes, competition shooters who could not make a good decision for an 8-hour class if I offered them $20 in a win. It was something as simple as like, "Hey dude, like bad guys right there in front of you, move trees," and they would just lay down. Or it's, "Hey dude, bad guys up there on your left. Like I'm feeding you a bone here. I'm giving you a known here. Swing wide, swing right. Like let's go down the trail 50 feet, cut up, get behind that fallen tree. Then we'll push up from there, get behind them." And they'll just stand up and run straight toward the bad guy. Yep. We saw that this past weekend where I was like, "Hey, flank them on the right." They just ran right down the center of the trail, got slaughtered. And like, man, I don't know why that didn't work. I said, "Okay, well, I told you to flank right. Where did you go?" "Well, I don't really know." I said, "Well, you're in the middle of the trail." "Well, I guess I went straight." "I guess you did." You're talking about 5-second decisions, and "Hey, dude, I need you to, move up to this tree up here." And they would turn around and run and grab their buddy, and both of them would get killed, or, both be on the X. There was just such a lack of processing, whether it's visually, whether it's mentally. I think that is the beauty of training. It's letting your brain work through some of these unknowns or figuring out how to give it knowns. I say this all the time in my classes. It's the guy who processes the fastest is the guy that goes home. And I will back that statement up every single day. I see it every day. The guy who is mentally there and mentally processing, he doesn't have to be the strongest, doesn't be the toughest or the fastest shooter, but you have to make the best decisions, whether it's a CCW situation or a force-on-force situation or squad tactics or medical or whatever. The guy who can process that, and I compare that if I'm teaching a law enforcement agency or if we're working with guys on a SWAT team, I talk about this in class all the time. My trick, if we're trying to decide who the point man is going to be, is I pass out the old multiplication times tables, and I give them 60 seconds to do as many math problems as I can, and then I'll see who can read a page, the fastest, and all I'm doing is just looking at processing speed. And then we'll go do the same thing after an adrenaline dump or an adrenaline situation, and I just want to know who can I can teach you footwork, I can teach you how to shoot, I can't teach you how to process with it, and we can. It's going to take dozens, to hundreds of hours of force-on-force training and everything else. But that's what they should be doing. 2023, my challenge to you guys, get into courses that are going to make you uncomfortable. Get you into courses that are going to show failures. And I think that's going to be the thing. Is you have to start getting your brain to process well and make sound decisions under stress. Any thoughts on that? Agree?
You're right on it. Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, I mean, it doesn't take, when you're in the middle of like a force-on-force situation, you think that just stopping and maybe even just stopping and thinking about what's going on. Yeah. Where is everybody around you? Where's the bad guy? Where's a direction I can go to flank? Anything like that. You think that it's going to cost you something. Kind of like it's going to, like, they're going to make a move before you do or something. But it only takes, like you said, like a good 5 seconds to really just stop, reset your mind or whatever, look through, and then decide on what movement to make, and decide even if where you are maybe is a good strategic place. And it's that whole rushing through and not paying attention mindset that will always get you killed.
Yeah. Well, you made a good point. You said you kept using the word decide. It's decide, decide, decide. You referenced it, 3 times in 2 sentences.
Oh, yeah.
So our decisions are based on
values.
Exactly. Something I harp on all the time in class. Our decisions are based solely on values. If we're not giving ourselves knowns or not feeding our brain items that they can then base values on, then how are we ever going to decide or make decisions? And the answer is we can't. We shut down. We fight in doorways. We fight in hallways. Mm-hmm. We fight in the open. We we make the most split-second decision of how can I try to do something right now, and it's not always a good decision. Usually it's not a good decision or the best decision. So if you can be constantly feeding your brain knowns, giving it information, feeding it intelligence. That's how that works. We call it the battle of knowns versus unknowns, and how that in classes, and we go over that in extreme detail on how that is our basis for values. Then we talk about our values and how that is the key to making good, positive decisions. But if you're not, like Jacob said, it's all about being aware and situational awareness. That is where we take in our knowns. Our awareness. And I tell everybody in CQB class, I don't care if you tell your brain the sky is blue, the grass is green, the walls are brown, and you go, okay, how does that help me tactically? Right. It doesn't. You're right. That's not the 3 knowns I want you to give yourself. However, we'll see guys go, oh, I think I should go left from here. We didn't feed them any knowns tactically. You just fed your brain something that was a known, and now it kicks, and it's that Honda Civic that now shifts gears. But if you guys can use the situational awareness, right? And it's not just, when I teach a situational awareness class, it's 6.5 hours long, and a second part 2, that's another 6.5 hours long, but part 1, 6.5 hours, because we go into what is true situational awareness. And this is what we talked about even in squad tactics. And I'm going, man, how does squad tactics and situational awareness apply to each other? it's not just paying attention to what's going on around you. I say it's also comprehending its meaning and then projecting future outcomes. I get really, really psychic when I teach classes. It's all about predictive behavior and what do you think I'm going to do and what do I think you're going to do and how can I be unpredictable and make you unpredictable and how can I base my knowns off of that. And so, situation awareness is just that it's paying attention, it's seeing, it's keeping your eyes open, but then it's also keeping the lights on and keeping somebody home by you comprehending what you're seeing and then taking that a step further. And how can I use that as a projection on what I think is going to happen and then play my hand in my favor? I carry an orange tourniquet in my truck in my driver's side door. It's orange. And everybody's like, why do you have an orange tourniquet at your door? And they're like, is it because you can see it better at night? No, it's because I don't count on Joe Blow stopping to help me at the traffic accident knowing what a Cat Gen 7 tourniquet looks like. So I can go, hey, go grab the orange thing out of my door, right? I'm projecting what might happen based on my observations and comprehension and going ahead and loading my hand, cheating a little bit preemptively to try to load it in my favor. I think that's what that's all about. Anything you want to add?
Well, no, I mean, you pretty much hit everything I was gonna say, actually. But no, I mean, like I said, it's you'd be surprised how much just stopping and saying stuff like, the wall's brown, sky's blue, it really does help. It sounds so stupid, but it really, really does help.
Yeah.
And when I was going through, some of your classes, Ryan, you get so stressed out thinking, oh my gosh, I hear them, they're coming. When I was, especially, in the CQB class, which was a nightmare. It was awful, but even though it was awful, I still learned a lot on what not to do from the mistakes. And so, hearing, someone coming down the hall, they know exactly where you are, but being confident even like in yourself and that's honestly, even a lot of it is just being confident in yourself. Yeah. And that you, and that, like you say sometimes, that you're the most dangerous person in the room.
Yeah.
Right. And that is what is going to help you win a lot. Yeah. Is like, being somewhere that's strategic. It's strategic, but then you hear someone come, they know exactly where you are, and then your brain wants to run. You want to move to where you can see more or something else absolutely. Like that. Because, it's that open field fighting a tiger thing. You don't want to fight a tiger in a closed room, you want to fight a tiger in an open field.
Right.
But you have to train your brain to be completely opposite than how it is. And
right.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's difficult, but that's what's going to help keep you alive. And that's where the being committed to training comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. And prepping and
LARPing.
Prepping mentally.
LARPing. I mean, hey, honestly though,
get some time in.
Right.
Yeah. Prepping mentally. All right. So that brings me to our next topic. Next topic is going to be some current events. And then we're going to go into some Christmas gifts, and that kind of thing. So I put a thing up on Facebook and just asked a question as to what would you guys like to see us talk about. And I selected screenshotted a couple answers that you guys had, and I love some of the answers. And some of you guys posted some things that realistically would be way too hard to talk about in a podcast. So like, hey, talk all about knife defense. That is really something hard to talk about. Jump in that class. But something that I did go ahead and screenshot first and foremost was people want to know about the Moore County Powertac. So I know that we all stay up to date on our current events here. All the guys do. And at least we try to. So most of us. There's a couple. We won't name names. They're on the website. So stay up to date on current events. So your thoughts on the Moore County power outage?
Well,
as I pull up these comments,
right. It's It's honestly nutty. Like it's, I don't really know how else to describe it. It's so like the information that's being given out about it is completely convoluted and insane. And
Facts.
like at first, you're taking it at face value, but then when you start to think about like what's going on, you're like, does this really make sense?
Right.
Like how what the FBI released about the guys.
We have no one in particular, but we're suspecting it's either white supremacist or anti-LGBTQ.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here it is. Hold on. They said they were white supremacists, and they expected the damage would cost the government millions of dollars, lead to the power being out for months, and evoke civil unrest and potentially a race war, prompting the next Great Depression from knocking the power out from one county. Right.
Yeah. There's so much mixed verbiage coming out, but if you notice, CNN's the only one that's producing that article.
Fox 2. That's straight from Fox.
Wow, I saw that wasn't CNN. Interesting.
No, they're all saying the same thing.
Okay. So I have heard some speculative theories here, and what I will tell you is expect to see more of those happening throughout the winter.
Oh yeah.
Something that we're going to look into for end of 2022, beginning of 2023. But the thing is, I've worked in critical infrastructure protection for years, and this is not new. I mean, I've been in this industry for 10 years, and this was all the talk when I got in this industry 10 years ago was, with 9 snipers, we could take out the entire country's power grid by hitting certain key substations, and then it's a domino effect by oversurging and overcharging certain power grids and then lead to power failures, and it's too much of a drain and things shut down. So with 9 snipers, we can shut down the power grid. There's technically 3 power grids, East, West, and Texas. Go Texas. And so if you think about that, it's not new. It's just now catching on. And since the Moore County attack, you've had copycat attacks in Oregon and Washington, and it's just going to continue to happen. So a question was, do you think it's going to continue? And my answer is yes. Every nation state has known this since I've been in the industry 10 years ago. China knows it. Russia knows it. It's not coincidence, right? We have poor leadership with a declining infrastructure, and no one really has the respect anymore in a charged political environment. So yes, they're going to start exploiting weaknesses, and there's no weakness greater than our power grid. There isn't, and so vulnerable. Years ago, I was with Kid Solutions, probably 7 years ago, and we got contacted through some Department of Energy personnel, and it was, hey, we just spent, I won't even mention the number of millions of dollars on this new bulletproof fencing to go around our substation. So we want you guys to test a sample, and we would just play around with it. And it was supposed to stop 50 cals. Like, we're going to layer it too deep, and, it'll stop 50 cal attacks on the substations. We were punching through it with 5.56s. We were punching through it. We even had some 147 grain flat nose 9mm out of a sub gun going through it. 12 gauge slugs, 7.62s, whatever. Nothing. I mean, it stopped a Glock 17 at 100 yards with 115 grain. It was just, and 22, like 38 special. It was pitiful. And so we sent this testing back. It was like, this stopped nothing. And the answer is, well, we're going to double layer it. Okay, but it's supposed to stop 50 cal. So we shot through 2 layers, and it of course did not do much better. And so they're like, well, come to find out, it was just a big money changing hands thing. Our power grid, and it's like that in a lot of infrastructure, right? It's not just our power. Our infrastructure in the U.S. is so vulnerable, and everyone knows it. I'm not giving out classified information or anything right now. Nation states know it. Your extremist groups on all sides know it. And so I do think we're going to start to see more attacks. I think it just set the ball rolling. I do think the whole Moore County has some interesting angles, and I'm going to try not to reveal too much and play my cards cards close to my chest here, just because I do have a lot of good friends and students and, who are involved in the special operations community. And we do train a lot of those guys and work very closely with them. But I'm skeptical to say it's just coincidence that it happened in Moore County. Moore County is, has the highest ratio of special operations soldiers out of Fort Bragg that I know of, and retired special operations guys, some of the best trainers and guys that I know in the special operations community are right there in Moore County. Pat McNamara and some of those guys like that come to mind, who live in Moore County, who are amazing war fighters, who are involved. And I know when the whole January 6th thing happened and, America's insurgency and all that, there was some special operations guys who were involved there. So much so that there was some talk behind the scenes of locking down the compound and, some special operations guys really having some closed door meetings on, all right, well, who did they think the legitimate president was and what was going to happen with that. So I'm not saying it was special operations soldiers that went and did this. It's not what I'm saying. It's the opposite of what I'm saying. I do think there might have been some retaliatory and just some proactive measures in place to shut some of that down. I know they said what we think it was, to shut down the LGBTQ plus whatever drag parade that was going to happen in Moore County.
Right.
They're investigating that lead. However, there is absolutely zero substance to that whole, it's to me a false flag, if you want my opinion on it. So I am saying there could be a link there between some retaliation with some special operations members and, just getting back at them and, maybe crippling some of their movements. But we love our special operations community, and we work very closely with them a lot of times, and do train quite a few. So I'm always, of course, quick to jump to their protection and be like, hey, they're targeting my guys, and I don't like it. Oh, yeah. And those are the guys that I try to look out for, that I have a really good relationship with. So that's something, a different angle that I think a lot of others maybe won't see or won't pick up. Right. But I am curious, kind of why now? We've known that this has been an issue. And sadly, if you look at Duke Energy's response and Department of Energy's response, there really is no response. The FBI chasing false flags, pull out narratives. There is really no response as to, well, what are we going to do about it? And honestly, there's no answer. I don't know of anybody that I know that is in an elevated position to help make some of these decisions. They're all going, we're just kind of waiting on an answer, because there's not really a budget. There's not really anything. No one is working to boost the security of our infrastructure. And when there is an infrastructure bill, all of your crooked people in D.C. throw in, you'll have the Democrats throwing in ban assault rifles in an energy bill, and the Republicans, ban abortion in a critical infrastructure protection act. And, infrastructure security is not something we can afford to play politics on. It's something that we have to take very seriously. It should be a two-sided, right? Make the power grid safe. Okay. That should be a pretty, between the aisles issue that we need to look at. And I think worst case scenario that we can have is cyber attack or physical attack on the power grid. There's no banking. There's no electricity. Everything we do is based on electricity. There's no, currency system outside of cold hard cash. And FEMA did an amazing study on this, and they were saying if the U.S. essentially lost power for 10 days, we would revert back to a society that would take 100 years to recuperate from. Just from lack of, and almost takes us back to pandemic. The reason that it worked in the pandemic is, we still electricity. People started working from home. There was Zoom. The financial systems were still in place. Imagine a widespread 1 month power outage for the Northeast or the Southeast, or, I don't think that small businesses would never recover. No. people would not recover. I would hesitate to say could not survive, 99% of people, which is why guys who really do push that preparedness and resiliency, I go back to Pat Mack, I just mentioned him, like he's one of the kings of that, basic dude stuff. He's an amazing retired special operations soldier who just pushes resiliency. And, he built his own outhouse and, beside his house so he could have, a toilet system, just, prepping. And the word prepper has gotten such negative connotations because I imagine doomsday prepper. There's some fat guy with an AR and a gas mask who has built a bunker in his backyard and is showing it on national television, right. Preparing for the UFO invasion. That's what people think of. To me, prepping is all about self-reliance and resiliency. Right. It's a redundant fallback system, a safety net of security that lets me be independent, prepared, and resilient. And that's going to be the goal, is everyone needs to, I would say, get in a group, like-minded individuals, because, I consider myself a pretty solid shooter and trainer, and, whether it's CQB or long range and preparedness and survival, but I have to sleep. I'm only one person. I can't pull security, grow a garden, prep, can, hunt, right. Use the bathroom all at the same time. Yeah, and so it does take numbers. But just really put a more of a focus on preparedness. And I'm not talking about going and buying 2 years worth of food. And a gas mask and 10,000 rounds of ammo and saying you're prepared. It could be something simple as having some flashlights with batteries, having some lamps, have a generator and a couple solar panels or a way to charge your phone, and then a backup communication system where that's, some type of track phone or something extra in case your phone dies with a spare battery that you keep rotated through, right. Some canned food, but then go learn edible plants. Like, your yard is full of plants that you can eat. I assure you. We teach that class and it blows people's minds. I'll stand in my front yard and be like, hey, this is all edible. And they're like, oh, okay. So have some food, have some people, medical, some basic antibiotics, stuff like that's just true basic preparedness. You don't have to take it to a 5-year scale where you're burying ammo in your backyard. I know when the pandemic first hit, I had a student of mine, took a lot of classes with me, phenomenal shooter, and, always runs his, Mark 18 suppressed with his nods and everything, squared away guy. And he called me. He's like, hey, dude, 2 quick questions. The grocery store is out of canned food. I have 1 can of ravioli in my house, and we've also been out of toilet paper for 2 days. Maybe just a basic, like, sanitation bag, right, which is some extra toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, and a couple rolls of toilet paper and some feminine hygiene products. Be great, great start to preparedness, especially if you have kids. And so I think 2023, I've already said, I said in episode 2, if you didn't watch episode 2, go watch episode 2 with Justin Stevens. We're talking about just prep for 2023. We think it's going to be a bad year, and everyone's saying that, not just me. It's the intelligence community saying it, the pastors are right. saying it. So I think that based on current events, where that's Bill Gates meeting with the World Health Organization to do a tabletop exercise on the next pandemic. Yes, that happened this week. Or the Moore County power attack, or just a rough winter. We could keep going on and on and on. China making some moves, Russia making moves. I have quite a few students over in Ukraine fighting right now. It's just bad, and so I think that preparedness is going to be a big one. Which brings me to the next question. Prepping kit. So Matt asked in the comment section, why do people copy other people on the internet, including kits and preparedness items, rather than tailoring it to themselves?
Because they don't want to research it.
Bingo! Thank you for copying my answer.
Right.
They want to be spoon-fed. People love it in the comment section. It kills me in some of these. People love it when they post some guy, random, guy will post a picture of his kit in loadout, and it's, the comment section, please list every item specifically. Right. Why?
Right. Why?
That doesn't need to happen, because what's right for you isn't right for me. I have 3 different war belts, one for teaching, one set up for CQB, which is more slimline. With my teaching kit, I've got like 6 different pistol mag holders and things, because if I'm, let's say, running a student's Glock and I run a SIG, right, I can, take their stuff. Or if I always bring at least one Glock, one 320, and then I usually teach off a 226 because that's my favorite pistol. It's the best pistol ever made. Insert that here. I always, I might have 2 mags per weapon system. So if a student is struggling with a Glock trigger pull, I will be glad to go take off my ALS, stick my Glock on, or QLS, stick my Glock on, and then go teach off a Glock for a minute, and then go take it back off, and I can have my mags. So I've got places for Sharpies and, like weird stuff, like my snack when I'm teaching. And then I have like my 308 belt set up, and I've got different plate carriers, what I might choose in a vehicle, like running protection work. I like side plates in a vehicle. Yeah. I hate side plates virtually everywhere else, versus like a long range patrol. If I'm teaching like a Camo and Recon 3 class, or I have different setups. And so I might have 5 different sets of kit. Well, what works for me might not work for you. My kit in the front has Blue Force Gear 10 speed, because I can actually attach my ghillie suit onto my kit, take those mags off, stick them in the backpack or on the cummerbund, and then have my front completely slick.
Right.
That way I'm crawling and doing and moving. Well, if you don't plan on ever leaving your urban environment where you're not going to be crawling and moving and doing, then I would say you don't have to go slick, right? I would have everything accessible in front of me. And so I think, yes, my short answer is people love to be spoon-fed information. Right. B, Rod, first episode, me and him sat down and talked right before we filmed the first episode. And he made an amazing point. I don't think we got it on film in the first one. And he said back in the day when he was growing up, which is different from your generation, you're younger than I am. Back in, he said the experts stood out in their field. Right. It was, if someone was an expert in their field, everyone knew it, everyone respected them, and everyone listened to them.
Right.
Nowadays, based on the internet,
anybody can be an influencer.
Everyone is an influencer.
Right.
And everyone is an expert. And everyone has a million different opinions. And not everyone's wrong. They might be right, but it might be what's right for them.
Exactly.
And so many instructors nowadays are back on that bandwagon and pushing, certain things. A local instructor was sitting there, selling USCCA insurance in his classes. And he was doing a pros and cons list, teaching us to why USCCA was better. Well, USCCA was also paying him to do it.
Right.
Like, okay, so everything you just said is invalid. Now I have to go do independent research on my own,
Which you should anyway.
I agree. Yeah. And so, everyone nowadays is an expert, or to the internet, on the internet.
Right.
They're all an expert. I have guys who are in class and they're recommending gear to other students. And then admittedly, they're like, well, I've actually never used the gear. Okay. Well, and so I think we're just so used to giving our opinion. And then keep in mind what's right for you may not be right for what's, someone else's need. So I think our need to do independent research to evaluate our own goals. I can't tell you what to do, and what to buy, because I don't know what your goals are. I don't know where you're at. I can't tell you what you need to do to prep for, because I don't know what's in your house, True. I don't know what your skill set is. I don't know what your wife's skill set is. And so we get into some of that where, and we've gotten completely off topic on the question, but I think it's good do your own research, but first analyze what you want. That's a great way to start. Students go, hey man, what? And I get new students ask on a daily basis, what class should I take? We have 100 classes on the schedule, a little more than 100 different classes on the schedule next year. Where do you want to start? Like, what is your goal? Is it to defend your house? Is it to be a better concealed carry holder? Is it just to be more self-reliant and prepared? Is it to shoot competition? So analyze where you're at. And then, don't copy anyone's kit. Figure out what works for you. Right. And there's no generic answer. I like T3 gear. I like their stuff. I had a student in squad tactics. He's like, hey man, I got the T3 set up, but honestly, it was just a little small for me. He's a very big guy. Hey, it's not that T3 made a bad carrier. It just wasn't a good fit for him. Right. He found a shellback or something. Great. I have shellback kits. My truck kit's a shellback. I love shellback. It's awesome. T3 is my first recommendation. He followed up with another recommendation after doing research. That's amazing, and now he ran his kit. He's awesome. And so, I think do your own research, figure out what works for you. You can get ideas. I had a student come to squad tactics this past weekend, and he had 2 cat tourniquets dangling like saggy nipples off of his kit. So every time he jumped, they were actually just looped through one piece of molly. They just smacked around like this. And I'm going, okay, caught on his rifle, caught on everything, went prone. They're just everywhere. And so I was like, all right, let's figure this out here. I was like, you can run a dangler. So I went and got one of my danglers. And you can run like a Kydex retention. And I showed him decent tourniquet holders. That is when that's cool. He's like, hey, I love that dangler. That will work for me. And it will work for him. Fantastic. Sorry. I had another student that had his, a law enforcement officer, had his cat tourniquet on, like small of his back, right side. He was a little bit overweight. I was like, can you get that tourniquet with either hand? The answer was no. I was like, okay, then we need to move this tourniquet around. Here's a different option. And I showed him a couple options. That's fine. The need is there for everyone. You have to have your tourniquet quickly accessible and accessible by both hands. But not everybody's kit's the same. His belt was set up different than the last 3 law enforcement officers that I've seen in class. Right. But the need might be there, but there's a lot of solutions. Just do your research. If it's Meg Gear, North American Rescue is my go-to. Rescue Essentials is my backup go-to. Both awesome companies. So I guess find a need. Some of these needs don't change, but some of the kit does. So don't set your weapon system up like everyone else, or don't go with the most gimmicky new product out there, because I can tell you, I see the gun community and the training industry as a whole going in a direction that it doesn't need to. It's going in the direction of pandering to an audience. Mm-hmm. Pandering to an audience doesn't mean it's the right answer, because the masses are calling for it does not make it a right answer. I saw where Scar, I don't know if you've seen it in the last couple of days, FN came out with their new Scar 16, a new Scar 15. They're calling it the 15P. Okay. It is their new pistol version of a Scar 16.
Okay.
7.5-inch barrel. So you mean to tell me you're going to make a 5.56 in a 7.5-inch barrel, 1 1/8 twist rate? You're not even stabilizing the bullet.
No.
You're not stabilizing your bullet. I've had 7.5-inch ARs, piston driven, right? They've been around for a while. In fact, I had one 10 years ago, and it was about 150-yard weapon system reliably. A, the rail space was so short you couldn't really do anything with it. B, the lack of stabilization, it would not group well past 100. I mean, it was like minute of man. I mean, getting out to like C-zone steel, which to me is unacceptable with different types of ammo. It's unacceptable. And so, it's what the masses wanted. And, the comment section, finally, like a gun that we've all been waiting for. Why? I have here another example. One of the guys like, hey man, I picked up a new toy. So the new toy is going to be the new Springfield Prodigy. While that thing shoots well, the fiber optic front sight and the blacked out rear.
Right.
That's something that we see on the staccato. A staccato shoots well. Don't get me wrong. The this handgun shoots well. Don't get me wrong. But in reality, why would I want... And this one's being marketed as the concealed carry version. Staccato has some cool race guns. I don't mind your fiber optic sight on your race gun. That's fine. It's a competition gun. Yeah. However, they're sticking the same fiber optic front sight and blacked out rear on their concealed carry piece. So if we go do math, 52% of your shootings happen in low light or no light conditions, where I have to articulate to a jury that I had proper sight picture, or especially if, God forbid, I miss and something happens where that round travels and hits an occupied car or dwelling. I need to articulate that it was not negligence. It might have been a bad shot, but I had a good sight picture and I had positive target ID. That's why I can't emphasize enough. You're going to carry a pistol, like you better carry a flashlight, And so now you have a cheap fiber optic front sight that's going to break. And if you say it's not going to break, I challenge you to run it hard in any of our intermediate or advanced pistol courses. We snap. I think we've snapped almost every fiber optic front sight we've ever had in class. And so now you're putting weapons that I cannot see at night in a position on your body where no light shoots are around the 50% mark. How are you going to pick up sight picture? And they said, well, it's built for a red dot. I hear you, but why not go ahead and put night sights? It might be $50 more. Right. Might be $50 more. But it's because the masses right now we want fiber optic front sight. That's what the Staccato has. Right. They copied the Staccato, put the same fiber optic front sight on the Staccato. There is such a lack of, it goes back to me, situational awareness. They are not comprehending and projecting any outcomes that could happen based on the stuff that they're producing right now. Thoughts? I know you're super big in like the gun stuff. He does all of his gun research and watches YouTube and all that stuff. Any thoughts?
No, I completely agree with you there with the fiber optic. They yes, you get it. It looks cool. You go in the night, it glows or whatever, and it looks cool. But then once you're running that, it breaks. And then imagine, you're in that low light situation, you're needing to rely on that pistol for your life, and then you can't see it.
Yeah, and can't see it because it doesn't glow when then your rear sights are blacked out. Exactly. And there's no.
That's one thing when I was looking at that pistol, it hit me immediately was that the rear sights were just blacked out. Yeah, and I'm thinking in low light, this is not good. First of all,
and if you're running a red dot, blacked out sights are fine.
Yeah.
But then I also want them, if they're going to be blacked out, I want them co-witnessed. Mm-hmm. So I want suppressor height or co-witness night sights blacked out as a backup. But those aren't even suppressor height or co-witness. And so it just comes to a point where we're putting things on handguns that don't, and rifles, right, that simply don't make sense. We were talking about the BDC reticles, and I harp on those all the time. I cannot stand a BDC reticle. It's a gimmick that is a lie from Satan, and we were talking about how BDC reticles, work and don't work. And one of the students is like, well, it gets me close, at 400 yards, it gets me close to a man.
Close only works in nuclear bombs.
Horseshoes, hand grenades, nukes. That's when close counts. And I'm going, okay, the problem is if you take our courses, we shoot 3-inch circles or 5-inch circles at 300 and 400 yards. We shoot head size to simulate a guy laying down, or I bury like in scoped carbine or any of those. I stick the target behind a secondary berm. And so just the head and shoulders sticking out like a guy fighting over the berm. Your BDC reticle is useless. Okay, not to mention, let's take an ACSS reticle. It's set for 1 bullet, 1 speed, 1 atmospheric set of conditions, 1 rifle. And if you look at, like, let's say the 308 ACSS, it's like something crazy, 26-inch rifle at sea level in 75 degrees, shooting 175s at some ungodly feet per second that no one's ever recreated before. You know, they're just blazing them out of there. So now let's say you shoot winter to summer. So now my atmospheric outdoor temperature is 30 versus 70, and that means my ammo temperature is also 30 rather than 70. So now I have a slower burn rate. My velocity is significantly lower, and it's significantly lower if it's colder. And we're shooting a target that's, you know, in 30-degree weather. Unless you're just shooting massive Iron Maidens at 300 or 400 yards and not something smaller or kneeling or prone, it doesn't work. Right. You know, and so I just think this industry as a whole is quickly going somewhere it doesn't need to go, and we have to start thinking about those outcomes off of that, versus simply doing some math, getting a dope chart and indexing, you know, or you know, having a reticle. I like holds too. Having a reticle that is based on MOA or mil, you know, subtensions, and then just having the proper hold there. All right. So that brings me to my last point before we get into the spiritual. We've talked about our mental. We're going to talk about a physical. Christmas 2022. Christmas ideas. All right. So anything that you see that's hot this year that you think should be pushed or should be considered as a Christmas gift, or something like that either somebody needs to put on their list or needs to buy for a father, son, brother, spouse, whatever.
There's a 1 pound, like a gummy bear. Have you ever seen that before?
I've not seen that.
And it's completely edible. And it's like, it's huge.
No,
it's like 1.5 foot long, 1 pound jelly bear. Like it's terrifying, and I don't know who's gonna buy it, but someone's buying that.
So you're subtly asking me to buy.
I'm subtly asking.
Okay. Suddenly asking me to buy you a 1 pound. Okay. Buy it. All right. So to me, I'm gonna pick on or refer to some of our partners. Now, we do not make any money. Let me say this. I refuse to take money, from partners. You don't get money either. I'm sorry. No money for you. Okay. I recommend these because they're dudes that I know or companies that I know that I use personally, push personally, and also refuse to take money from.
I'll take money.
So we were talking about optics. I like Athlon for basic LPVOs and basic rifle scopes. Now, do I also love my Night Forces and my Trigicons and my Leopolds? Yes, I do. But I also understand that some people don't want to go and drop $1,000 on an LPVO. I get it because I'm one of those that don't go drop $1,000 on an LPVO. So I like my Athlons. Athlon makes a phenomenal Midas 1-6 power, a phenomenal Argos 1-8 power. I just picked up the Talos 1-4. Glass is awesome for a $200 optic. So if you're really looking at the LPVO game, start with the Athlon. You can always upgrade to the, you know, crazy expensive Vortexes or the, you know, the Night Force, you know, 1-8. Hey, cool. I get it. I love them. But start something like that and train on it. An LPVO does take training just like a red dot on a pistol. People talk about them being slow. I really don't think they're slow. They just take work. Like, set it up to your eye, do the things you need to do. I have started going to the LPVO game simply for the sake of target ID and partially exposed targets. The more that I love to, and I love to shoot at distance. If I need to fight you, I prefer it to be about the 300 to 400 yard mark because I'm very fast at that distance, and can be pretty solid in my hits. And so the LPVO is awesome for that. I can index. I want something that is illuminated. I want something that I can index well. The Athlons have capped or uncapped. They come capped. All you have to do is take the caps off. You can run them uncapped. Whereas the Vortex, Strike Eagle you cannot. And much of the other ones you cannot. And so I would recommend that A&J Sporting Goods is a good place to get those. They're always running sales. Midway USA is another place. They have the Talos on sale for like $120 or something. You can get $125 or $120 LPVO. That is an amazing buy. Good glass, good tracking. Set your eyepiece up like you want it and roll with it. Solar is another one that I would recommend you guys if you're, Weiss looking for a big ticket item. You cannot go wrong with solar. Goal Zero is who I recommend for those. We don't have any discount code for Goal Zero or A&J, sadly. We'll work on that for you. But Goal Zero is awesome. You guys need to get into the solar game. Goal Zero has an awesome USB charger, flashlight, plug-in, power bank, all in one. Cannot recommend it enough. It's their Torch series. Awesome products, again, that I don't make money for. A couple other ones that I would push and really think about, anything non-lethal. So, for like spouses, daughters always get asked all the time, what can I do? If you carry lethal tools but don't carry non-lethal tools, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. Whether it's some type of pepper gel or bear spray or OC spray. I'm not a huge believer in the pepper spray. That just it's a cloud that settles. Right. And I don't want to try to use that in my vehicle and then try to drive away. Right. I hate the pepper foam. Yeah,
I've never seen that.
Oh, yeah. If you've ever wrestled anyone who has been coated in the foam, it's like wrestling someone coated in baby oil. Oh. It gets slick. And I'm a struggle snuggler, so I like to just interweave my way into you, and it doesn't work well if you're slick. So I like the gel. It's you gotta be a little more accurate. There's cons to the gel. You gotta be a little more accurate. It's not aerosol. You have to actually aim. But you can fight. It actually makes them a little sticky. So I don't mind you getting stickier the way that I teach self-defense and intertwine. But also you can use it in a confined space, in a vehicle, and still extricate yourself and your family without moving through that crowd of plume of smoke. Another one, guys, it goes along a couple EDC items that I want to talk about. Have a good flashlight. If you carry a pistol and you don't carry a flashlight, we need to talk. You should carry a flashlight. I just got done teaching a vehicle defense class, and we went through why I do not believe in weapon-mounted flashlights in cars. That's an opinion that I will take to my grave for now, unless I'm always open, opinions change, but unless something different, science with photonic barriers that I get to witness for myself. If you shoot windshields the way they need to be shot and in proper placements, you're running certain weapon-mounted lights, they completely kill your game. So, anyway, you should also, even if you do run a weapon-mounted light, I'm not against them. I carry weapon-mounted lights, but I also have an administrative light or a backup light. Streamlight is who I go to. They make awesome lights. Another awesome light company is Powertac. So we partner with them as a brand sponsor a while back. They make awesome duty lights. They're a little bit larger than just like a small one you can stick in your pocket. They do have some very small EDC lights. They stay in my vehicle. They stay on the nightstand. They stay in different places. They make amazing solid aluminum housed rechargeable USB flashlights. So like in your vehicles, they are invaluable. And they put out a lot of candela. They're amazing flashlights. We do have a discount code with them. It is APEX, all capital letters, and I think it's 15% off. Another one that you guys should have is a NeoMag holder. So EDC item number 2, I run NeoMags to hold my spare magazines. If you guys carry a concealed firearm, I highly suggest you carry a backup magazine. I carry one in the door of my driver's side of my truck that's loaded with the bullets that I prefer for windshields and barriers. And then on me in my person, I always carry a backup magazine. It's not so we can shoot more. It's because magazine failures and the likelihood of in a grappling situation, we do see magazines go down. A NeoMag is a magnetic holder that actually slides into your pocket, holds that magazine tight. The discount is Apexdefense Group if you guys want to purchase those or have your wife or loved one purchase those. The next one is tops. So if you guys follow me on social media, you guys know I'm mildly obsessed with tops knives. I don't get free knives or get paid. I still buy these. I'm a little bit obsessed. This is my EDC knife. So this is a Tops Street Scalpel. We teach blade classes. They always sell well. So we usually have 8 to 10 students in all of our blade classes, and I get to see what people carry. We have at least one a month. So I get to see what students are bringing to the table, what they're choosing to fight with, what they're carrying. And I can tell you, I'm very picky on my blades. Greg, who teaches bladed weapons with us, he is very, very picky on his blades as well. Jake Glass, he loves that class. We love tops. I want something with a good slash factor, good stab factor, good utility factor, good survival factor. Your Tops knives deliver. So I have a few here that I like, personal collection, and recommend. This is their Sierra Scout. It does awesome for processing game, has a good wide grip. I love all the grip with my pistols and with my knives. It has a good belly and cutting surface. And then that point is still good. They are all full tank. They are awesome, solid, sturdy knives with good sheaths. Another good Tops knife is their Steel Eagle. So that is a overall good just survival knife. You look at the thickness and the full tank on that. With your saw serrations on the rear. Yes. The saw serrations are all different height and cut to a different angle. So they definitely do a good job with cutting. We've tried those in some of our survival classes. The last two are part of their newer line. This is their Black Heat. It's actually designed and is going to be submitted for the new Marine Corps fighting knife. This thing is heavy. It is not something you can carry. If you look at your blade thickness, I'm going to hold my finger up for perspective. The full tang. This thing is extremely thick, extremely sturdy. We actually took a hammer to it up here, and we're hammering our way through small trees. This thing is awesome. And lastly is my new favorite. It's going to be mounted to one of my kits. It is their new Impact, which is based on the U.S. Air Force new survival knife. Very light, very fast, good survival blade, good handle, good thickness, overall good survival knife that can be mounted to your kit pretty easy. They do all my knives on my kits, my plate carriers, my belts. They're all Tops knives, so I love them. I've used them here and abroad for over 10 years now, right at 10 years. Discount code is APEX30. A couple other codes I would recommend. I told you guys T3 makes a couple of my belt setups. They make most of my plate carriers. They have awesome setups, awesome carriers. Their discount code is APEX15 for 15% off kit. They have good backpacks and belts. Above Jake is one of my helmets. If you guys are going to get into the night vision game, We have a bunch of night vision classes coming next year, already selling very well. I can tell you the first thing you're going to do, just go buy a helmet. People don't think about how quickly night vision adds up cost-wise. So they're going, all right, I can get a unit for $3,000. Okay, now go get a Wilcox mount for their $400, or a J-arm for cheaper, and then get your mounting plate, and then you're going to need a helmet to go with it, and then you're going to need, sacrificial lenses and an IR laser. You start to go, okay, my $3,000 purchase now is at least a $5,000 purchase with things added. So I'll tell you, start slow, get your helmet, practice with your helmet. The weight's funny and you're adding everything else. Ballistic Armor Company makes mine. I love their helmets. We've tested a few of those. I've got videos. Apexdefensegroup 10 is 10% off. Saves you like $50 or $60 of those helmets. Lastly, our coffee. So I'm a coffee drinker. Tops Knives, of course, has the coolest mugs. So Jake and I are currently drinking Invader coffee. Gotta love our Invader coffee. I use them religiously. Again, I don't get free coffee. I don't make money for giving you this. Discount code is Apexdefense for, I think it's 10% off your coffee order. Guys, these are just products that I use, that I reached out to and was like, hey, I use your product. I buy your product. I don't want anything. All I want is a discount code for students, so it makes it a little bit more affordable. They partnered with us and said, no problem. Here's a discount code for your people. A couple other things I want to talk about. I like Woobie hoodies. Have some sort of waterproof, weatherproof jacket and materials, and something you're preparing for cold weather. So I love the Browning Endeavor series. This is a 50 by 70 blanket. It's water resistant, wind resistant. It puffs up like a sleeping bag. So this one is the blanket version. It weighs maybe a pound. Maybe. Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe less than a pound. It's 50 by 70, right? So do your math in inches. It's large and folds up into something pretty small. You can attach to a kit that weighs nothing, that you can sleep on or sleep under. I also have their sleeping bags that we use in some of the survival classes. Phenomenal sleeping bags. Midway USA just ran a sale on these and is planning on continuing their sale through Christmas. I'm pretty sure this blanket was like $20. And so a good purchase that we've tested that we like. And the Woobie hoodies I like, they're from OP Tactical. Two last things for Christmas that I would recommend. Okay, one of them is from our friends over at Viktos. I've been waiting to show this off for a while. This is my show and tell one that I left the tags on. There's one currently in the back seat of my truck that's kitted out that looks like it's been through every piece of red mud and clay in North Carolina, because rad ranges that we use is a little muddy. So this is their Viktos Grayman. It's actually a chest rig that has some super awesome, cool magnetic clips. And it's a low profile chest rig. So in the front, you have your basic utility pouch. These zippers are waterproof and water resistant. It's made out of ripstop, so you can dive on it. Has a place for a concealed carry pistol. On the inside, it has places for your medical gear, tourniquets, backup pistol magazines, multi-tools, chargers. I have mine decked out as a grab-and-go from the truck piece of kit that you can just throw over yourself. On the interior pouch, it has places for rifle mags or backup cell phones or laptop chargers. It'll fit a small tablet. It has a place to hang your tourniquets and a place down here to hang a tourniquet. So it's a very low profile chest rig from Viktos. Just very low key chest rig, part of their Grayman series. I love the magnetic buckles. So all you have to do is simply take this, throw it on and over, and snap your magnetic buckle, which I'm not going to do right now. and it stays extremely tight to you. I mean, you can see, Jake can see, you guys might not have the best angle. It is extremely tight to you. You can run, play, dive, move, which we do in the classes, running some of these, testing some of these out. It does not go anywhere. And they're pretty affordable. So go hit up Viktos, get one of the Gray Man. I'm going to work with them on a discount code. I don't have one for you guys yet. But the magnetic just buckles are insane. And it's an awesome piece of kit that you guys can keep staging your truck. Even with just, if you don't go the survival route, backup chargers, a boo-boo kit, things, I'm one of those that carry a bag in certain places with just my man tools. And so I'm always prone to have gear. The last one, Mantis systems. So I love a Mantis dry fire system. I have all different types of the Mantis systems. If you want to know how I dry fire or tips on my dry fire, go back and watch episode 2. Justin Stevens and I talked about this. The Mantis system, this is one of theirs, and I have multiple. This is one of their X series. This one mounts on pistol, rifle, shotgun, or bow. And what it does, if you guys are not familiar with the Mantis systems, and most of you are, it tracks movement, tracks timing, tracks your trigger squeeze. If you guys have taken shooting classes with me, you guys know how important trigger squeeze is to me. And I demo why that's so important. It tracks your tracking, anything like that during your dry fire routine. So what I use these for is I love to find where I'm producing waste and where I'm producing excess movement. And so that's really cool. Something that I worked on with Mantis and talked to them about a while back, usually we think of dry fire being standard pistol or carbine. So I actually mount those on my precision rifles. So I'll run up to a barricade, run my bolt, practice my trigger squeeze while I'm winded, and look at how much movement I'm inducing off that barricade. Or I'll go prone with my precision rifles. That's when I just see them not being used, where I see the benefit more so than anywhere else. On my precision rifles, I have guys that struggle with muscling triggers or muscling guns in some of the long range courses. I'll throw a Mantis system on it and go, dude, here's what you're doing just sitting here prone, loading your bipod, or here's what you're doing, your trigger pull on this precision rifle. And then I'll run it, competition prep, run up on my barricades and seeing what kind of movement. Am I really loading my sandbag? Am I stable on my barricade? Am I stable when I'm producing that trigger squeeze? And so I cannot recommend the Mantis system enough. Before we get into our last topic, what we'll talk about is give you guys one tactical tip. So every episode, I want to give you guys some sort of tactical tip. This tactical tip is going to be Christmas-y related. This is from a candle company. It was on sale for Christmas. It is just a little tube of beeswax. So I buy all of these when they go on sale at Christmas time, aka this time, just 100% pure beeswax. And what I do is I rub down all of my zippers in beeswax. It puts a protective waterproof coating on your zippers. So when it's pouring down rain, you've got your cool jackets on, you can have a waterproof barrier that keeps heat in and moisture out. And it's things like $2. So there's your tactical tip. Okay, so our last topic that I want Jake and I to discuss. So what most people don't know, and I'm sure Jake doesn't mind if I say it, Jake is actually about to leave us end of this year?
End of next year.
End of
October.
Yeah, end of 2023.
Yep.
Okay, Jake's about to leave us end of 2023. I'm already thinking that we're in 2023.
Right.
To go to college to get into ministry. So he's one of a great guest to talk about our spiritual topic. So what I want us to talk about for our spiritual topic is the reason for the season. This is a Christmas-based episode, and it's been on my heart the last, I don't know, maybe week or two, just to go into the reason for the season. I've taken a different approach, of course, getting saved this year and Christmas, look at Christmas so much differently. I've started a new tradition of reading the book of Luke. I read one chapter every night. So there's 24 chapters in Luke. So if you read one a night, and it's not too late to start now, just maybe pull double duty, reading a couple a night. Luke did love to write. I read one chapter of Luke a night, and then come Christmas morning, you've read the story of Jesus. And so I've never done that. It's something new, and I am in love with it. And tying it back to some things going on in the world and just some things in church, and it has given me such insight into this season and into some of the historical context, and just reading some things through a different mindset that I may have missed then I want to share with you guys, of course, because that's what I want to do. So my challenge, maybe this year, maybe next year, and don't forget it, is every day from December 1st to December 24th, read one chapter of Luke. And then on Christmas morning, you wake up with this story of Jesus fresh in your mind and on your heart. And it helps give you guys the actual reason for the season. And I want to talk about some different things that has really hit me hard. Rereading Luke and reading through one chapter a day and really just stirring on it, meditating on it all day, that I want to go through with you. So one of the biggest things I've taken away is in the Christmas story, we see all the time where the Prince of Peace is born, right? We see in references to Prince of Peace is here. I can tell you from my perspective, there is never a season of rush and lack of peace than there is at Christmas time. Whether it's dealing with family or Christmas parties or buying gifts and planning, finances, there is never a season where I feel less rushed than it is this season.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't help but think that that's all just spiritual and worldly.
Oh, I agree.
To get us completely distracted from the spirit of the season, which should be peace and rest and, a saving grace and a saving peace here.
Right.
And I'm so skeptical to say that this is a season of peace for anybody when what came was the Prince of Peace. Right. And so my challenge, I love a challenge for you guys. I'm usually add it at the end. My challenge now, I'm going to do it now. Take some time and reflect on peace. And are you experiencing peace? And are you focused on peace? Or are you too busy letting the worry of what's going on in the world or what's going on in your family? Are you too busy surpassing the real reason and love and peace and salvation, and instead focusing on the world? So that's something we see over and over and over. It's the Prince of Peace, the source of joy, and I can tell you, this season is not a source of joy for most either. It's we're missing loved ones, and I understand that, or it's cold outside, people are stir crazy and depressed and inside, and everything else, and it's so easy to not be thankful, to not be have a heart of gratitude, to not be joyful in this, or it's I didn't like what so and so got me for my present, or it's such
underwear,
exactly, or I got them a better gift, or so and so got me a better, it's everything but joy,
right?
And it drives me nuts, because we're missing the purpose here. And a pastor that I used to listen to had the best thing. He said, everyone wants joy, right? Wants happiness, happy wife, happy life, or, I just want to be happy and live happy. And, everybody wants joy. He said to him, joy stands for Jesus over yourself. Right. And I love that because we are so selfish and self-absorbed, and everything is all a merit-based system of love, well, I didn't like what he got me for Christmas, or your kids aren't grateful, or you're so worried about pleasing everybody. And then all that is a lack of, identity on you and a need for them to like you. And, we are so focused on ourselves. But that's the opposite of real love. Real love is exactly it's selfless. Right. It's, and so if we're supposed to be focusing on him and love, the first thing, if we want joy and this comfort and season of joy, is Jesus over you. If you can't see it in him, you shouldn't be acting like it either.
Right.
And if he's not really over yourself, then it doesn't really matter. Right.
You can be happy at any time, but joy has nothing to do with your situation or how you're feeling exactly. It's more of a state of being instead of a feeling. So that, like you're saying, it's putting Jesus over yourself. It's not a feeling.
It's a fact.
It
should be.
Well, yeah, honestly, yeah.
We all, when I was looking at this, I was going back through reading in Luke and reading in Scripture, and I don't think that Jesus shows up where he's not invited. It is another, he would tell the disciples, where I'm at in Luke is, he would tell the disciples, go into the city and essentially see if they welcome you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there's so many times where we just do not even invite him into that holiday season. We push him out.
True.
And, I made such in the spirit of hurry, and rush, we don't invite him in. Or I said in my journal, save him a seat at your table. What that means to me is at our family table, there's always anger and hostility, and someone's always mad at someone, and there's always drama, and there's just, right? And there's always something. Tell me, if you can't find that in Jesus, how is Jesus going to show up and find himself at your table there?
Right.
Let it go.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It's bigger than you. And if everyone will put themselves last,
right,
and sacrifice for the sake of love, I'm sure we'll have Christmas with joy and peace, and
right.
But what that means as far as saving him a seat at your table is letting go of that anger and hostility and inviting him in, and inviting that spirit of peace in, that spirit of thankfulness, that spirit of love, that spirit of sacrifice, which is a word that we hate in modern day American culture.
Right.
Invite him in, save him a seat at your table, put everything aside, and focus on love. I was just thinking to myself, there's so much contention usually at our Christmas table.
Oh, yeah.
And you're talking about a God of a universe who gave his son and put himself into a womb of a woman, where he then had to sit and wait and grow for 9 months. And then for years, learn to walk, learn to talk, be completely self-reliant on nursing, on someone changing his diaper. I mean, that's so hard to fathom. you're talking about the God of a universe in a diaper.
Right.
The ultimate act of love and humility and sacrifice. And we can't get over something the way that somebody only brought one dessert at a Christmas party.
Right.
And we just miss that point and miss the whole story at that point. To me, it's just so hard to fathom. The God of the universe learning to talk because he's so humble, because he loves you that much. And we get bent out of shape on Christmas gifts or so-and-so. Last year was a huge debacle because someone came late. Get over yourself and focus on what's important. We're healthy and we're happy.
Right.
And we're all together.
Right.
And, I have been guilty of missing the point for years, and so I'm going to challenge you. Don't miss the point. If we aren't practicing humility and love, and that's what this whole Christmas story is about, is love, then I think that we missed that whole point. That's why he did it. It didn't say God, so hated the world or so, needed to save the world or so needed the world's love or so needed something. Say, for God so loved that he sent his son. It wasn't, he didn't send his son even to, give us truth and give us a happy life and send us all to heaven. He gave us his son because he loved us. And that's what the whole coming of Jesus is about, is love. I was sitting there reading, and Jesus was on the cross, and he had the challenge. I love a challenge. I'm a challenger. He had the challenge. Well, come, if you're God, come off the cross. And I hear all these preachers all the time, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just going to give you a different perspective. Jesus could have came off that cross, and did he have the power to? Yes, I'm not saying he didn't. So don't put words in my mouth, and the internet's going to blow me up over something I didn't even say. I didn't say he didn't have the power to. I don't think Jesus could have came off that cross, because that would be selfish. And God and Jesus can't be something that they aren't. They can't defy their own nature.
Well, I think he could. I think he 100% could have come off the cross at any time.
I'm not disagreeing. He had the power to. Yeah. I agree with you.
But no, but I think, like you said, he has the power to and all that. But I think he could have, because there's even before, he always has these opportunities to be selfish. He has the power, and he can use that power either way. He could have chosen either way. I mean, he was fully God, fully man. He has the free will to do whatever he wants, but he's choosing not to do it out of that love, like you said. And love it doesn't expect anything back from anything. True love doesn't expect any love back. And that's how, and that's what the whole thing was. He doesn't expect us to do anything, and that's what we're also doing in the Christmas season while we're getting all bent out of shape.
That's why I said that just hit me so hard.
Right, and we're getting all bent out of shape because we're expecting things to be good for us instead of us expecting ourselves to do good for other people.
Right.
And
we give gifts to expect good gifts back. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that is the almost exact reason why we give gifts.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're giving someone a gift to going, all right, where is it? Give it.
Right.
Give it back.
I love you this much.
Right.
You also love me back.
Right.
Do this much.
Right.
And it's a test.
And you're expecting this material thing to prove someone's love to you.
Yeah. And so you say he can. I say he can't, because I do not think that God can go against his own nature. I do not think that he can defy his own nature and what he says he is. And when he says he is love, I am Now, I agree with you. He had the choice to. Oh, yeah. He has the power to. Yes to all of that. But then he wouldn't be love.
Right. He wouldn't be. And that was always, even he was being tested. I mean, he couldn't be tempted, but it said if he couldn't do these things, then he wouldn't be tempted, right?
Sure.
And so he constantly was tempted. He even said he was tempted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was even the time, like in the Garden of Eden, or not Garden of Eden. Sorry, Garden Gethsemane, and where he's pleading God to take away the cup of wrath from him, and which is actually him being selfish if you think about it, because that's him saying he doesn't want to die. That is what he's saying. He's saying, Father, take away this cup from me, because the cup that he's speaking of is in the Passover. Passover meal, there's cups that they pass around, and then there's one that's the cup of wrath that they pour out. And then he's speaking of that cup, and that's the one he had to drink. He had to drink that cup, but he's saying, let it pass. But I love you, God, so much that what you say I'm going to do no matter what I feel. So he could have.
Yeah. He would just defy his nature.
He always had that option.
I mean, it's a good point. Yeah, and that's how I love that. I don't want to go through this, but I will go through anything.
Right.
Because I love you and love the people, and loves us.
Mm-hmm.
I was sitting there thinking about it, contemplating, God had to grow the tree that made the manger, but also had to grow the tree that made the cross.
True.
He has to plant that seed. You do know how hard that would be to grow the seed, into a tree that was going to make the cross. I could understand the manger, and he had to, make the nails or the wooden dowels or whatever that was, they used. Right. I don't know, but he had to water that tree every day, have the nutrients to the soil every day, to grow that tree that made the manger, but also made the cross. Mm-hmm. And that is such a humbling just thought to me that puts the Christmas season into perspective. And we miss such little things throughout all of that. I made my journal entry actually for this morning. Was in this season, don't miss his glory or focus on things that are not important. The rush, the hurry, the gift giving, the making sure that your wrapping paper is perfect and has the bows, that is not important. It's that he's going to show his glory in the normal things. And Pastor Debbie Lanier had a great article on this, and said, he came in a normal manger. He didn't come in an elaborate palace or elaborate bed. He came in the thing that everybody walked past. I feed and water the horses and the cows. You just walk past the trough. Like, you don't think anything of it. And then the water into the wine, his first miracle. They were normal. If you go back and look at the Greek, they weren't ornate wine jars. They were actually the 6 normal clay pots that they used for washing their hands. They were actually just dirty old pots that sat around. He didn't use the gorgeous ornate pots that they had the wine in. He didn't use, his first miracle. He used dirty, standard hand washing 6 clay pots. We think about, I always in my mind think about these casks of, just wine barrels, or they're these ornate, palace.
Right.
And then I was sitting there thinking about it. The couple weren't even named. So this was a nobody wedding.
Right. Essentially.
Mm-hmm. He performed his first miracle at a couple's wedding that wasn't even named. Stuff like this happens on a daily basis. His glory is shown on a daily basis. And it is so easy to miss it, you know, and it just comes in the common. But someone got him involved at that wedding. You know, it was Mary, but we have to get him, especially in this season, involved in the common. You know, we wait for him all the time, or wait for peace, or wait for joy. But we miss the whole point and miss what is common. You know, I made a post on, I was thinking about just inviting him in to the common. I made a post on Facebook a while back, and you guys can add me and look at it, and I'll summarize it. But I was sitting there thinking, it's like, what if, just in my head, reflecting on relationship, what if Jesus knocked on my door right now? And, you know, I was sitting there thinking about, like, we just don't invite him into the common. My house, like, that's common. And as I was picturing it in that moment, it was, oh my gosh, you know, I'm picking up dog toys off the ground and throwing dogs up in a room and sweeping the hairballs, you know, and it's this rush and this, I'm washing the dishes in the sink and, you know, gotta cook and fix this elaborate meal. And then I'm sort of thinking through that this morning, going, oh my gosh, it's exactly what we do this time of year, and missed the whole point. Right. And the whole time, he's just sitting outside knocking in the cold, you know, and we're not letting him in because we need everything to be perfect, to look perfect, or, you know. And then I think that people don't invite him in this season because they're too busy doing everything else, and he's just outside knocking. Eventually, he's going to think nobody's home, you know?
Right.
And we missed the whole point. And then secondly, you know, as I sat there and thought through that more, back when I made that Facebook post, you know, I actually pictured him coming in, fixing me a cup of coffee and washing my dishes for me, you know, right. And then I just sat there and just get on my knees and just, you know, enjoy the magnitude of that. And honestly, what your house looks like is not important, you know. And if this is really, season's really about him and peace and joy, it's all about service.
True, right.
And, you know, I think just that magnitude of, do you really think he would want you to do that? He'd probably go start fixing me breakfast, like, right. You know, and wash my dishes, and just the love and the service. And so it changes your whole perspective as to who he is, and then what this season is all about. You know, I said he doesn't care what your house looks like. He honestly doesn't care if your life is a mess right now or your house is a mess right now. Right. He cares about you and is there to help clean it up. Right. And that's what matters. That's what's important. That's love and sacrifice and service. And I sat there and just like cried thinking about it. I know, like, big tactical me is sitting there like a baby, you know, just in the humbleness and just the fact of, oh my gosh, we missed the point. And I think we missed so many just sweet moments along the way. You know, when the angels came the night that Jesus was born at Christmas time, they weren't just like, I always picture like these white choir boy, choir girl. I don't know if they have a gender. It's 2022. We shouldn't assign gender. No. These angels, these were warriors. Like, they were like warring angels, you know, like these were not like the sweet little, like, you know, they were like these warring angels who, it just gets like sweet to me, had not seen Jesus in that man form, you know.
They'd never even seen God face to face. Really, even though they're in the presence of God, they never even see him face to face.
I've heard that argument before. Of, you know, because there's that scripture of even the angels, you know, have their wings, right? And so they were finally able to look on the sweet man flesh form of God on earth. And so, like, imagine that moment for them, these mighty warriors showing up, you know, at the birth of Jesus, and just that, and their first thing is, you know, here's peace, you know, and just the sweetness of that. And I had never really put two and two together until it was, and Jake's heard this. It was a guy from Bethlehem was speaking, and he said, these weren't just everyday normal shepherds out in the field. And I had never, and I might be giving you guys somewhat of a history lesson. I'd never seen that before either, or known that before either. These were not regular shepherds tending regular sheep. This wasn't just random coincidence. I was like, all right, bunch of random shepherds in a field, bunch of random sheep. Right. No, these were the shepherds that tended the sheep, special sheep, that were used as a sacrifice in the temple. That's what these shepherds were. And you can go back, this guy from Bethlehem was speaking about it. That's at the time, and went to the caves, and that's at the time the shepherds that were there. So these were the shepherds who raised the sheep for slaughter, who raised the perfect sacrifices used in the temple. They would have understood the magnitude of this is the last sacrifice, essentially. What a sweet moment that we miss, And then, if you guys don't know about the Tomb of the Innocents, and that's something that we were looking at, Bishop Lanier was talking about, the Tomb of the Innocents, when Herod had all the babies killed after the birth of Jesus to try to stop that from happening, when he got word, there is a tomb in Israel, just outside of Israel, in a crypt under this church that's is the house of the Tomb of the Innocents, where all these baby skeletons are sitting. And those are innocent lives that pave the way for his path, as prophesied back in the Old Testament. Right. And so there's just been so many things sacrificed for love and for him and for salvation that we just miss, and I can tell you, my pup, if you guys follow me on Facebook or anything, I've got a pup at the emergency vet right now. Finn, he's my year-old shepherd. He's been at the emergency hospital for 2 nights now. Caught a very rare form of parvo. It's a very aggressive form. Even though he's vaccinated and all that, this form of parvo lives in the ground primarily. And just a weird freak thing. But it's a very aggressive form. It attacks bone marrow and everything else. So he's currently not home. He's at the emergency vet. We can't see him. He's on a feeding tube and very, very ill. But doctors have a pretty strong prognosis. But 2 nights ago, he actually went, he deteriorated in about an 8-hour span. It was so bad, he was drifting in out of consciousness, went and dug his own hole outside, laid down to die. You're talking about one of my fur children, like family. And so he's still there. He's doing good, so we appreciate prayers and thoughts. And I thought to myself, I would give anything this Christmas to have my boy back. That's just where my heart is. He's like a kid to me. I'm not married, don't have kids. They're like my family and children, guys who don't know me. And so I would give anything to have my boy back. And the vet's like, it's going to be thousands of dollars. It's like, who cares? That's what credit cards are for. Like, here's do whatever it takes to keep my boy alive, and I would give anything to have my boy back by Christmas. Like, if he's back by Christmas, that's a Christmas miracle. That's the only gift that I want, because that love is there. And that would be the greatest gift that I could get. The greatest gift the world ever got would be the other main Christmas miracle. And I'm going, okay, so he's a dog, right? He's not even my firstborn son, he's a dog. Now, granted, I'm going to argue that they're family. But that, more than anything, has made this whole season just so surreal that I would do whatever it takes to get my boy back, keep him alive, keep him safe, have him back by Christmas. And then you have God, the universe, going, but I love you this much more, that I'm actually willing to sacrifice. That's like me saying I'm going to sacrifice Finn, who's a dog, and ain't no way. No way. You know, like I don't love someone that much. Like, you know, and I would do anything to keep him alive, anything to keep him healthy, anything to have him back by Christmas. And just the light bulb realization that the God of the universe who made every hair on Finn's body and who made, you know, the grass that he poops on, that God loved me so much that he sent his. And knowing what I'm feeling with Finn right now and the just anxiety and the you know, that he's gonna be okay and pull through, and the vets are still hit or miss, and I just the level of love. And I think that we are so quick to put God in the box of wrath, and he's an expectation to have to meet. And we miss his whole nature of love, and we miss how much he loves us. And, you know, we love him scripturally. We love him because he first loved us. And I think it's the first step of having that relationship with him, is realizing the magnitude of his love and all the small, sweet moments that we miss that just help drive that love home, just like the nails were driven into his hands. And so that's where I'm at this Christmas season. I've given you some cool discount codes. We've talked about some training things for 2023, getting some Force on Force classes. We love your questions. We love your comments. If you guys want us to cover something in episode 4, please let me know. In the meantime, guys, we're here. If you need us, if you Christmas ideas, whatever, shoot us some emails. Get into some classes. We're going to run a holiday sale on classes, probably 20% off. Get your gift cards. But most importantly, just remember the reason for the season. Slow down. Invite him in. Get over yourself. Get in the right headspace, like we talked about in Force on Force. Get out of your feelings, and just remember the reason for the season. We love you guys, and have a Merry Christmas.